Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger, and it is indeed the Halloween season, so I thought it'd be fun to toss up a little bit of a list of the top 10 spookiest and scariest fighting game characters, because hey, we got a lot of them. So without any further ado, let's start off with our number 10. Coming in at number 10 is Shuma Gorath, the Eldritch Horror himself. Now, you could argue technically he's a Marvel character, Doctor Strange villain specifically. Also, technically a Conan the Barbarian character. He goes back, there's some history to this character to say the least, but he's definitely most famous for his fighting game appearances. Making an appearance in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, he became a Marvel vs. Capcom stalwart. Also making appearances in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And why does Shuma Gorath make the list? Well, it's pretty easy. Hey, just have a gander at him. This is definitely H.P. Lovecraft's favorite fighting game character, to say the least. Shuma Gorath attacks in a wide variety of ways, using all sorts of tentacles and ancient eldritch magic, and that definitely puts him on the list. And also, he's the holder of the world's only non-Euclidean command grab in the Chaos Dimension, just the way H.P. Lovecraft would have wanted it. So between a tentacle onslaught and eldritch magic, yeah, our boy Shuma Gorath definitely makes this list here at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Jedah from Darkstalkers. So I can make a whole list about Darkstalkers characters. If you're not aware, Darkstalkers is effectively a horror fighting game franchise with all sorts of spooky characters and cast. Now that said, to limit myself, I only have a couple on the list here, and Jedah definitely makes the cut because he is gross, for lack of a better and more eloquent term. Jedah is a demon lord who wants control of the demon realm, and how does he accomplish that? Well, by ripping off his own body parts and just bleeding all over you. He'll rip off his wings to throw at you as a projectile. He'll have his bones pop out of his skin to stab you. He'll rip off his own arms and attack you with them. He is a gross dude, but he'll do what needs to be done. Also, Jedah's stage, keeping with the grossness, it's a giant baby demon. You can see the umbilical cord, his brain is glowing, all these little polyps are undulating everywhere. He's just a gross dude. Number 8 is Voldo from Soul Calibur. Well, he ain't a witch, he ain't a wizard, he's not a ghost or a goblin. He's certainly spooky enough because he's just the creepiest character. If for whatever reason you're not too familiar with the character, I think this picture will sum it up pretty well. Voldo has a flair for the extravagant. He is blind, so maybe that's why he doesn't dress himself the best, but he certainly knows how to pick his outfits. Between seemingly having no bones in his body when he manages to attack, and a heavily crotch-based offense, Voldo definitely a spooky guy. At number 7 is Mortal Kombat's D'Vorah, their resident bug lady. Now, she's hardly the only bug lady in fighting games. However, unlike Darkstalkers QB, who's very fun, cute, and quirky, D'Vorah is decidedly a lot more grim, having some of the most brutal and disgusting fatalities in Mortal Kombat history, and just a lot of slimy stuff. D'Vorah, she's very caring of her offspring, very good mother, but a lot of those offspring are definitely kind of ugly and definitely the kind of face only a mother could love. Between just, all the bug, insect-based offense, she has one of the most gruesome scenes ever in fighting games with the kiss in Mortal Kombat X. If you got any problems with bugs, you probably won't like D'Vorah, to say the least. D'Vorah is gross, D'Vorah is gruesome, and D'Vorah makes this list. For number 6, let's move to Guilty Gear and move to Zappa. Now Zappa, in and of himself, he's got nothing wrong with him. He does have a very big problem though when it comes to being possessed by spirits. Zappa is host to a legion of spirits, and they can basically possess him whenever he wants. Now, luckily enough for Zappa, these ghosts have to be pretty good at fighting. He himself, he has no combat ability whatsoever, right? But as long as ghosts are taking over, hey, he can do some stuff so he's not completely hopeless, and the supernatural beings that possess him, they get the job done. On top of having a legion ghost at his disposal, Zappa also kind of a big fan of The Ring. With all sorts of ghosts and demons at his disposal, Zappa is nothing less than spooky. For number 5, let's go to Samurai Shodown. Have a look at this guy. This is Kusaregedo, and he is a giant cannibal demon, otherwise known as a Gaki. Kusaregedo's hunger is insatiable. It's all he cares about, looking for his next meal, and doesn't matter if it's human flesh or not. He also unfortunately did eat his daughter, because that is all he cares about, is eating flesh, and hey, that's kinda grody. And speaking of grody, hey, that describes his moveset to a T. He's pretty disgusting. He doesn't really care what he does to beat you as long as he beats you, from puking on you to literally throwing his own feces at your face. Whatever it takes, he will do it. So, giant, bone-protruding cannibal who flings his poop at you? I'd say that's pretty spooky. Coming in at number 4 is Arakune from BazBlue. Now, at first blush, you might think, hey, he's kind of like No-Face from Spirited Away. Except for the fact he's a lot more ill-tempered than that. Arakune was a scientist that learned just a little bit too much about the nature of the world and went crazy and turned to a big old black blob. And in this black blob, there's all sorts of insects, creepy crawlies, bones, bits of flesh, everything spooky and awful that you can imagine. With everything he has, he can basically transform himself into any weapon he chooses, including a giant tarantula laser cannon. And he is a great poster boy for the quote, "Sometimes when you look into the void looks back at you," because hey, Arakune got messed up pretty bad. Definitely a spooky guy. Coming in at number 3 is Hisako from Killer Instinct. Now, Hisako is a Japanese spirit and Onryo, hopefully I said that correctly. Now, this style of character you've seen before, especially in Japanese horror films, but they never quite were wielding a giant naginata or sword and kicking your head in, like Hisako does here in fighting games. Now, just like you expect of a Japanese ghost of this type, Hisako is very stilted to say the least. She's slow as a snail 1 second, then just dashing forward and teleporting all over you next second. She is a very explosive character. Now, as a ghost, she can possess you, snap your bones and break your back. She can teleport everywhere, on top of just beating in your head the old-fashioned way. I gotta say, what really makes this character is just the animations. You really get that Japanese ghost flavor out of Hisako, and it carries through very well. Her presentation as it's presented is $1,000,000. She looks fantastic, and basically everything that is to be conveyed is conveyed very well. Definitely a spooky, spooky character. Coming in here, number 2 on our list is Rikuo from Darkstalkers. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, he's not that spooky. You know, he's, a big fish man, merfolk. Definitely reminiscent of something like Creature from the Black Lagoon. And that's not too terrifying and scary in and of itself. Well, first up, fish are gross. Like, ugh. Disgusting. Fish are gross. So that's already enough, right? But the thing about Rikuo here is the insidiousness of this character. Now, you may very well be familiar with Morgan from Darkstalkers. So Morgan is a succubus, and she's pretty good at what she does. She's managed to be a flagship character for a franchise and hasn't had a game in 20 years, and people still remember her pretty well. There's 2 good reasons for that. And when it comes to the seduction job, Rikuo is much more irresistible than Morgan is.
Even though you are curiously attractive for a scaly freak. Even though you are curiously attractive for a fishman.
What started as a joke in the old Darkstalkers cartoon eventually kind of wound its way up into the lore of the character, and Rikuo is truly irresistible on all levels. Here is an excerpt from the official Darkstalkers vs. Street Fighter comic. After Rikuo beats Laura, says, "Hey, we'll find your worth in helping me create a great kingdom of the mermen." Laura, coming to her wits, realizes, what was proposed, and is a little concerned to say the least. However, even Laura herself cannot withstand his curiously attractive powers for long. And this power is what makes Rikuo a threat. So with wave attacks, fish spikes, crab hammers, frog gills, poison, everything in between, his greatest strength is how curiously attractive he is, and that's what makes him downright spooky.
You are curiously attractive for a fishman. So I've been told.
And at number 1, it couldn't be anyone else other than Leopaldon, because, yo, look at this guy. So, Leopaldon is a giant whale Sasquatch with a Dark Knight and a dog with bondage goggles. He is originally the boss of Guilty Gear Isuka. Now, Guilty Gear Isuka, well, it's confined to the depths of history. It's not one of the good ones, let's put it that way. Now, as for Leopaldon himself, he is one of the titular gears. That is at least a giant whale-like creature. The actual Leopaldon is the gentleman, the Dark Knight, and the dog is just a dog. He's there. I can't explain it. Maybe you got an explanation. No one really knows, but he's there. And there's not much to say about this character that's just not immediately evident by just looking at him. If you know anything else that can beat a bondage dog piloting a giant walrus whale gorilla thing, hey, let me know. But as it stands, he's definitely one of the freakiest characters in video game history, let alone just fighting games, right? Because, man, what a look. And that, my friends, is my top 10 scariest and spookiest fighting game characters. Agree or disagree? Got some characters I skipped over? Hey, please put it in the comments below. But that is it for this video, my friends. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video found you well, and go out and celebrate Halloween.